Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Math Puzzle Crash Course. This is a topic that I wanted to cover for quite a while because a lot of times online, on Facebook, other places where you have forums and you have some math problems listed, a lot of times these order of operations problems will come up, and there's always a debate, and usually during the debate, one person will say, well, my calculator told me the answer was this. And the other person will say, well, my calculator tells me the answer is something else. And they go back and forth, and each believes that they're doing it correctly. When in fact, a lot of times people don't really understand how calculators can differ. And basically, it has to do with how they've been designed. It has nothing to do with the order of operations necessarily. The order of operations is solid. But what you have is you have a lot of inexpensive calculators use what is known as immediate execution mode for entry. And then there's also what's known as an expression or a formula-based type calculator, where you can type in the entire expression as it's written, and then press the enter key to evaluate the result. That may seem a little complicated. A lot of people don't realize this, but an example of an immediate execution or a single step type of calculator is the Windows Standard Mode calculator that you'll find on a Windows computer. Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 7, Windows XP, back to Windows 95, and so on. These calculators, typically, I believe the default mode is standard. A lot of people don't realize that this is the standard mode calculator runs in immediate execution mode, meaning that it's processing each operation as it's being done. So you have to be careful how you type a problem into a calculator like that in order to get the correct answer. Another example of an immediate execution or single step type of calculator would be the TI-108 from Texas Instruments. Now, there's lots of other examples. A lot of these little dollar store calculators look very similar to this. They'll have the little solar charging screen on this, and they basically just have numbers, and you've got addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Now you do have memory functions on here, which is one way you can get around this calculator working in immediate execution mode. Or you need to understand that when you type a problem in, you need to do the multiplication and type in the division before you're doing the addition and subtraction. You'll notice that on a simple calculator like this TI-108, there are no parentheses. So you cannot even add parentheses or brackets. A lot of times in the UK they'll refer to parentheses as brackets, but you're not able to even enter those in. That's not even an option on this calculator. So you can't even adjust the order of operations with parentheses like you can, say, on a scientific calculator. And now, an example of the expression-based type calculator is the Windows Scientific Mode calculator. Basically, the calculator on a Windows computer, if you click on this little hamburger menu, the three horizontal lines, you can switch between scientific and standard. And in scientific mode, it works in expression-based. Cell phone calculators also work in the expression-based input mode. Now, what I'm meaning by that is, say, if you have a problem like this, 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2, if you're using an expression-based calculator, like a scientific calculator, your cell phone calculator, just any scientific calculator, you can enter it in just like this. 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2. And then when you hit the equal sign, this type of a calculator will evaluate this whole expression at that point. Now, with an immediate execution-based calculator, even though the problem is written out 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2, in order to get the correct calculator, you've got a couple options here. The one option is type the multiplication in first, 10 times 0, then plus 50 plus 7 plus 2. In both cases, you'll get 59, which is the correct answer. Now, a lot of people will take one of these little calculators. They'll go back to a calculator like we just saw, like this TI 108 here, and they'll type it in, 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2, and they get the answer of 9. And then they automatically assume that 9 is the correct answer because their little Dollar Tree calculator told them so. And that's wrong because that type of a calculator works in immediate execution mode, which I'm going to show you what that means here in a second. I'm actually going to show a couple videos of the calculators in action with this problem and a couple similar ones, and you can see the difference and hopefully understand what I'm talking about. All right, so in this case, we've got the Windows PC. Happens to be Windows 11, but if you've got Windows 7, Windows 10, probably even Windows XP, I believe this all looks the same. We're going to take the problem 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2. And so I'm going to go ahead and start entering it. 50 plus 10. All right, 50 plus 10. And then we're going to say plus, well, times 0. Now watch what happens when I hit the times. It automatically, immediately executed the 50 plus 10. So we have 50 plus 10. I haven't even times by 0 yet, right? All right, so here's a standard mode calculator. If I have the problem 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2 equals, you get the answer of 9. And if you look at what I've got up here, I have 7 plus 2 equals 9. It's basically using immediate execution mode, and we're getting the wrong answer. A lot of people will take this calculator or even a cheap dollar store calculator and then try to claim that the answer to the problem is 9. But again, as I've already explained, I've explained that there's different input methods for calculators. There's immediate execution mode, and then you also have the expression mode where it follows the order of operations. And regardless of which calculator you use, you have to be aware that if you're doing a problem like 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2, you must follow the order of operations. That's a standard. That's a worldwide standard. Now, I can switch this calculator right over to scientific mode and watch the difference. 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7. And you notice how the expression is staying up here as I'm going, and I go plus 2 equals, and you get 59, and you have a much different looking expression up here with the equal sign. You got basically end up with an equation here, but you have 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2. Again, I'm going to go back to the immediate execution mode, and you can see the problem here is that it is actually going, as soon as I go 50 plus 10, then I hit the multiplication, it immediately has added 50 plus 10. So I'm already wrong. I'm already off. And then if I multiplied that by 0, and it's going to give me 0, and then I'm going plus 7 plus 2 equals 9. So it's completely wrong. Now, the way you can get around that with this type of a calculator, you can either use memory functions like we've already discussed, or you understand that the order of operations needs to be followed, so you must you solve it this way: 10 times 0 plus 50 plus 7 plus 2 equals 59. You get the correct answer because what we did here is we realized that multiplication needs to be done first, so we used the calculator and did that first. So, a lot of people might argue that and say, well, you just read left to right. You don't follow order of operations. You just read it like you would a sentence. And that's incorrect, and it's a common myth that people have about mathematics, especially if they've forgotten what they were taught. So I'm hoping this clears it up. I mean, your cell phone calculators, scientific calculators, many calculators will solve correctly with without using this immediate execution mode, but you do have to be careful of it. All right. All right, so we're going to try to show some examples here in math on a calculator with this. It's a Casio FX82/85. This is the emulator for it. So we're going to do 6 plus 6 times 6 minus 6. Very easy problem. And of course, it equals 36. Because this is a scientific calculator which is capable of processing multiple operations. All right, we're going to solve a problem here with the scientific calculator. It's 50 plus 50 minus 25 times 0 plus 2 plus 2 equals 104. This is a scientific calculator. It can handle multiple operations. All right, we're going to do a problem here on this Casio FX 8285 simulator. So it's going to be 50 plus 10 times 0 plus 7 plus 2 equals, and the answer is 59. All right, so yeah, I wanted to start out briefly here. I know this is a Wikipedia article, but I wanted to cover something about calculator input methods. And there's some good information here, because one of the arguments I see a lot on online forums, especially when we're talking about the order of operations, people also say, yeah, well, go use your calculator and tell me what you get, or that's the wrong answer, try putting it into a calculator. You'll often get people come back and say, well, my calculator told me the answer was blah, whatever. And the problem is people don't necessarily understand how calculators work. There is something known, there's different input methods for calculators. There's basically you have single step or immediate execution type calculators where the user presses a key for each operation, calculates all the intermediate results before the final value is shown. Um, and then there's what's known like as an expression or a formula type calculator, scientific calculators are a good example, where you type in an expression and then you press a key like the enter key or the equal sign at the very end to evaluate the expression. So what it comes down to is the different input methods. And a good example is there's different problems out there. For example, there's a pretty popular one out there where you have, well, again, this example they've got here, you've got the problem 1 plus 2 times 3, okay, that expression. And I could write out, well, what is 1 plus 2 times 3? What does that equal? Well, if you understand the order of operations, you know that multiplication has precedence. But the issue is a lot of very inexpensive calculators, they're simple basically four function calculators that use a single step execution, meaning that you have to already understand that multiplication it needs to be done first. And so you would actually have to, the keystrokes that you would need to use would be 2 times 3 plus 1 equals. And I realize the problem is written out 1 plus 2 times 3. But if you're going to do that on an immediate execution type calculator, you already have to know that the multiplication has to be done first. Whereas the expression calculator, it actually keeps track of the entire expression and all the operations, and it doesn't calculate till the very end when you hit the equal sign. So what the effect is, if you were to enter 1 plus 2 times 3 equals on an immediate execution calculator, a very simple cheapo calculator. Also, they mention here the Microsoft PC, you've got the Windows calculator, and in standard mode, okay, there is a simple four function calculators such as the Windows calculator in standard mode. That also works in immediate execution mode. And what's going to happen is if you enter 1 plus 2 times 3 just like that and then hit the equal sign, it's going to go 1 plus 2 is 3, and then it's going to take 3 times 3, and you're going to end up with probably 9 as an answer with that type of a calculator, and that's the incorrect answer. But a lot of people will say, well, look, my calculator told me it's 9, that's got to be right. But the thing they're not understanding is there's different input methods on a calculator. It has nothing to do with, well, in the old days the answer would have been 9, and it was modern math it's going to be 6. That's false. Um, so as it explains here, I'll just read it right out of Wikipedia. The first two examples have been given twice. The first version is for simple calculators, showing how it's necessary to rearrange operands in the order in order to get the correct result. The second version is for scientific calculators, where operator precedence is observed. So the order of operations is already handled in a scientific calculator. And you'll also find out your cell phone calculators work that way too. I kind of like that method better. That's why, with these cheap calculators, you got to be careful. Um, you have to be careful with that. And it mentions here different forms of operator precedence schemes exist in the algebraic entry system with hierarchy. The precedence of basic mathematical operators is taken into account, whereas calculators with algebraic entry system with parentheses support the entry of parentheses. Um, so it comes down to